She joined this week.
Okay. Thank you.
And then, you know, so you can still work actively. Trauma is a strong response to an experience. It's going to be our scribe for the evening.
So there's, let's see, how many questions? There's, well, they say a number of questions, but they all have little subsections. So there's kind of 3 to 4 main questions that we'll just talk through. It's super open-ended, like, yeah, we'll just kind of go through it. But the first one is, now that we're at a year after Harvey, what have you noticed about how the children and teens in your life, community, job, all of that stuff, what have you noticed about how they're doing, coping with stress, any of the long-term effects, you know, not coping with it, that sort of thing? Like, just what have you been noticing in your worlds, kind of at this point?
Probably not really coping.
Not really coping?
Not really coping. Just trying to not really thinking about it, just trying to get by the day.
Okay. And do you work with kids or?
Yeah, I'm a clinic aide.
Okay.
So we get a lot of kids that are injured or whatever may be going on with them, the sick. And they come in and they, you know, the kids talk when they're in there. Some of them are troubled, some of them not. Sometimes you get the CPS cases, sometimes you don't.
Which clinic is it that you work at?
Well, I am an itinerant, and so I move around. Wherever my district wants me to where I go.
Okay.
Maybe you're in the schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I think I heard all 3 of you say, because you're a nurse as well, I think I heard you say that in school, and then you're a teacher, and then I haven't had a chance to talk to you.
How you doing? I'm in education. I'm a student as well, and then I do community involvement as well. So
Great.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
kind of touch a little
All kinds of stuff, yeah, yeah, okay, good.
And what is you work here?
Yeah, so I don't work here, they have volunteer kind of group facilitators, so I work at the Finnegan Counseling Center, so I'm a licensed counselor.
Okay.
And then Day Cheer is also one of the facilitators.
Yeah, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist associate. So I work at a small school as a counselor. It's a little nonprofit school. And then I also have a private practice in West Houston for working with kids and families and adolescents.
Okay, excellent.
And adults. I work with adults.
I'm curious, when you say they're not really coping, what does the not coping look like?
Things could just get out of hand. It could be all frazzled, on the edge a lot, or not. It just depends. Each person copes differently. They can show signs of it, you know.
Right? Like either more reactive or more shut down?
Yeah, more shut down.
So you're kind of seeing the gamut of both sides of that. What about you, Daisy?
I know that in first grade in general, I feel like right now we're having a lot of behavior issues right now. Overall, kids are being, like my partner teacher, I hear a lot of just kids crying and, they're, every little thing sets them off. I think, I also, another teammate was having a kid be abusive with, anyone there. So I see that in my class, the kids are not as, they're not as violent like other classes, but what I see is more just sensitive to every little thing. It's just, we talked about like 9/11, obviously that was sensitive, but one was worried that it would happen. Like, is that going to happen? Is that, are you telling me it's going to happen? I'm like, no, it's happened a long time ago. You weren't even alive, stuff like that. So I just feel like I get out, and on my end, I have just sensitivity. The kids are just sensitive. 1 minute a kid walks in, it's the same kid. This one kid that normally he'll walk in, and then this week alone, a few minutes later, I look down and he's crying. He's like worried about his mom, something happened to his mom, and it's always something like random though, So I've known him since pre-K, and I know he used to like struggle to just be in school. Sometimes he'd always just worry about his mom, like I wouldn't be with my mom or my dad, something about just always worry that something's gonna happen to them. And that was sometimes pre-K, but I'm still seeing it now. So I don't know if it's necessarily Harvey related, but I just think that it's just weird that it's random. He comes in just fine, and then all of a sudden he's just crying, and it's always something. He thinks something's gonna happen.
Yeah, so sort of anxiety response.
Yeah. So that's what I see on my end. But first grade right now is really having a lot of behavior issues.
So it's my first year doing school nurse nursing, I worked up until the trauma center, and what really made me passionate about school nursing was like a lot of the adults that we treated that came in for the trauma center, it's because there was an underlying mental health like history. So you started learning that they had abusive childhood, all that kind of stuff.
All those stats you just talked about, yeah.
And you see it, and there's a high propensity to put yourself in situations that are very risky, and that's how you ended up getting shot, stabbed, all that kind of stuff. But what I've noticed a lot in the clinic, I can't gauge between this year and then like pre-Harvey, but we call them the frequent flyers. They'll come in often to the clinic, and they'll always say, "Oh, I have my stomach."
They've been coming in for a few days.
And so one of the interventions that I try to do is if there's a frequent incidence, I call home. Because usually what happens is, send them back to class. But then there's no follow-through. And then once you start calling home, they start telling you, well, there's somebody who's bothering her in the class, or actually there's something else going on at home, or you find out that there's a new stepdaughters in the picture, and you start getting a little concerned. So it's something that, we do see a lot, like symptomizing their anxiety, that always gets translated to, I have a stomach ache, I have a headache.
That's how he started off. When it was in pre-K, it was that. It was like, I gotta go home, I have a
You have to go home.
Yeah, and now he's realized that that's not gonna work. You're not gonna go home just because you say you're gonna, because Dad used to kind of like, I had him in summer school, so he would say, my stomach hurts, my head's, and so Dad would say, if that happens, call me, I'll pick him up. And so then I guess now, I don't know how it was for Kinder the whole year, but now he knows it's not gonna, you're not just gonna go home just because you say that, but he still has those same kind of little hints of what I used to see in pre-K.
Have you guys seen any of those like somatic complaints like the stomach ache or the headache escalate to the point of throwing up, or sometimes it'll be stomach ache the other direction?
Yeah, no, not so much. This year I haven't really seen it. I've seen it before, but not so much this year.
Yeah, and again, it would be hard for me to gauge pre-Harvey and post-Harvey, so I don't know. But I'm sure they do have those stomach aches, and I'm sure they're really anxious, and it makes them feel not so good.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what, as a clinic nurse, I'm not sure what would be a good intervention. What I do is I call home. I think it's always good to have communication with the parents, because you'll learn a lot of things that you didn't know. And
because we've kind of been talking about these mood changes and all this sort of stuff, and she talked about some of the signs of trauma and all that sort of thing in the presentation. What do you guys feel like, do you feel confident in being able to tell the difference between trauma and then just normal childhood, or adolescent development, and also kind of what do you see from other parents and teachers around you, the ability to tell the difference between if something's an issue and if something's just more of a kind of standard developmental thing, and or have there been any supports for that you've encountered?
For trauma, no. We haven't been.
do you guys have CIS?
We do have CIS, yeah. So anything we see like that, we do refer them to either the counselor or CIS. But as far as some of the stuff on the list there, then that I maybe just think of. I think if we just had that list handy, it would just help to just see that and look at it that way instead of always seeing it as behavior. Because for the most part, we just see our instinct is just we just need time out. Right now we're not trained to see those signs necessarily.
Yeah, it's you end up receiving all the signs, but you don't feel like you've actually been trained to know, okay, now what do we do with this? Or you were saying, what questions to ask. I do think calling home is a really good idea, because it can give you some other perspective that maybe the kid's not telling you.
What about, I think sometimes maybe the stressor may actually be coming from home. For example, I'm just going to use me personally, so I won't use anyone's examples or personal situations, but all my life I grew up thinking that I was anemic, because my mom always said she was anemic. I found out what it meant. She was cold, she was cold, she was cold. So I began to think that I was anemic, and I would start saying I was anemic, and it wasn't until I was an adult I figured out I'm the exact opposite of it. My body actually runs hotter than normal. So I say that to say that sometimes treating those children is not necessarily the remedy, where we need to be going after those parents who don't know how to manage or is contributing to their child being worried. So that's the part I may have missed when I came in late, so.
We haven't talked about that, so,
I
yeah.
haven't even gotten there yet.
Yeah.
And as far as Harvey goes, the individuals that I've interacted with have had those disorders or disorder-like symptoms prior to Harvey. I don't think Harvey contributed to it. More along the lines, they were stressed, they were hungry, they were moving around before then. I can say as a community member, doing a lot of community service, I experienced a traumatic experience through Harvey. My fraternity and my friends, we all went out and we did community service, going to people's houses and gutting it. And the first time I rode down an entire block and everybody's home was sitting on the sidewalk, I felt like I was in a war zone. That's something that I'd never seen before. I'd seen it on the news, but it was totally different seeing somebody's belongings piled out in front. So about 2 or 3 weeks I was going to different neighborhoods, different sides of towns, helping people. And then I got to a point where I shut down. Like I was stressed. I was like, I hadn't lost anything, but I couldn't do it anymore.
Survivor's guilt, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
felt the same way, yeah.
I wasn't burned out. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't go to anyone else's houses and see all their belongings sitting on the yard and cope. And so I shut down. I was sleeping. I was depressed. I was stressed. So I went through a period of that to where I can't do it anymore. I have to, figure out how to give my time and talents in another way. You want to come over here?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you.
You okay?
That's honestly how I probably deal with a lot of things. It's just like, I don't like watching the news because things are like that are just too stressful.
It's too much.
I can't, it's too much on the heart. I have to literally just shut down. And I can't really give too much emotion to it. I have to just take a minute because all that tragedy can just be too much.
Yeah, and see, I watched the first 48. I watched the news every day, but just actually being there was totally different. It was just too much. It was too much.
It was a whole other monster with that one.
Yeah.
You know, what your end of, or what you were doing.
And then you feel guilty. You go home
Yeah, 'cause I
and
really-
everything's in
I didn't
order.
really do nothing, but I was
Yeah.
on the truck and everything. It was a crazy experience. Like for the people that actually did lose something, but I do love that our community was so giving. Everyone came together. As soon as I got off that military truck, we were in the Kroger's parking lot. All of the Asian restaurants that were near, they swarmed us with food. Everyone was just helping everybody. It was just
Right.
crazy. It was just crazy.
Wow.
It really was.
Right.
But I mean, that's a powerful thing y'all both brought up of like, because everyone who's here, you're here because you're involved in the community and we're probably involved in the aftermath of caring for people and all of that. And
Right.
even if like you didn't flood or anything like that yourself, it still is a community-wide trauma. Just like knowing that happened, seeing everything, like I resonated with that too. Like I had that same experience, but then also I had to still go to work and
Right.
counsel people
Right.
and work with them through, and y'all still had to go teach, you still had to go, you were doing your volunteer stuff and your other community involvement and, like all of that. So like that tension there of being in a position where you have to be giving
Able to
and providing
give,
and all of this.
Right.
You don't have
And
any
receiving all of the trauma reactions from everyone, even, now, but then also still having your own stuff.
Need your time,
And
right?
hey, welcome, by the way. What's your name?
I'm Dawn.
Dawn?
How you doing?
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Dawn.
I know things too.
Do you work in the school system? Or
I do.
You,
I
okay.
actually work in Alief.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So what would you say, if anything, would you say that like parents or community leaders or teachers or whatever, if there's anything that you can think of that would be helpful for them to know, to like better navigate this stuff in the future? Is there anything you can think of that would be helpful? Or any delivery method of that information that would be especially helpful that you can think of?
To navigate mental health issues.
You have mental health issues and like the trauma reactions of kids and adolescents. And,
Like you see the
I
kids,
say
it's
we
like,
need more resources in the schools. And I say more mental health resources.
Awareness, I mean, just in general,
Yeah.
awareness and training. So the
Yeah.
parents, like you said, the parents are the ones that also contribute to their kids, being like that. So they need some training too, or, some kind of knowledge. Sometimes it's just they don't know. And that whole stigma with it, of course, with it being, like that, they're not going to reach out. So if we just promote it, maybe like shove it down their throat, maybe sometimes, some of them will get it. So,
yeah. The more awareness, more just general resources related to information, and then more like actual resources to get the services, like where the services
Exactly.
themselves are more accessible as well.
And being consistent, I think it's a mindset as well. I mean, for example, and I'm just going to throw it out, illustrate what I'm talking about, is you work in Alief, and we had a board member whose son also worked in Alief, and the son ended up killing the mother. Now, the mother sits on the board, and she's also an educator, so she has a duty to report. Now, I'm just stating what was on the news. Now, according to the news reports, the family members were saying that the son was having demonic attacks, and he was suffering from mental struggles for quite a while. Now, my concern is that in the mission statement of Alief ISD's board, it talks about all students, right? So they have the checkbox. It sounds good, but then when it came down to the mindset to actually implement what you say that you're going to provide my kids, like the son who stabbed the mom worked at the elementary school that my daughter goes to. He also worked at the high school that my son goes to. So when you say all kids, I'm assuming that you're talking about my kids as well. So you changed the mission statement to reflect your own personal mindset. And so I have a problem with that, and they're not consistent with policies and procedures. If you're not going to protect all kids, I'm simply saying take that out of the mission
Don't say
statement
you're gonna do it, yeah.
and provide me the things that you said that you're going to say. So the culture of Alief ISD doesn't match up with what is actually in writing.
But the culture has been changing, and is changing at a rapid pace. And I
When you
can
say changing as far as what?
socially, I don't think we get the support that we need. Financially, I don't think we have the resources that we need. We don't have parent involvement anymore. You talk about awareness, but not all of them are showing up at the PTA meetings. Why? Because a lot of them work 2 and 3 jobs. Kids are raising themselves. You see kids that are more depressed now, and that could be a social issue. That could be a trauma issue. It could be a different reason, but they don't have the support from us politically. They don't have the support from us structurally. They don't have the support from us resourcefully. I just think we're failing as a whole when it comes to these kids.
I don't think that board member not saying anything had anything to do with resources, though.
Probably
That
not,
had nothing to do
we
with
have
the parents.
such a large percentage of the kids who have medical issues or mental issues that don't have the resources they need to basically help themselves. And because of that, you have the dropouts. Because of that, you have the uses of synthetic marijuana. You have the cutting. You have the suicidal and homicidal ideations. You have all that. And now it's spilling over to where they're masking the mental issue, and it's coming out in the medical issue, because now we're seeing kids who have pseudo seizures, and that's a psychological thing induced by trauma or anxiety or whatever. And you see that spilling out more often now than I've ever seen in the school system.
I think what we can agree on is that you don't have the resources. However, when you look at the finances of the district alone, 85% of the entire school budget is spent on administration fees. And I'm not talking about principals. I'm talking about a majority of those fees are going towards a handful or 2 handful of administrators that sit in 4250 Cook.
And I will not disagree,
So-
and I will not agree.
And then we have multiple directors, a director of a director of a director. We have at least 10 individuals that work in the human resources department. For what reason?
And I understand. I think there could be a misappropriation of funds.
Comes down to mindset
yeah.
and culture.
Yes.
So we don't have a budgeting problem, we have a spending problem. If you say you need money for your vehicle and I give you $20 and you go and put $2 in your vehicle and you go and buy $18 worth of chips, and then you come back and say, well, I need some more gas money because my gas ran out. You don't have a budget problem, you have a spending problem.
And and like I said, a misappropriation of funding.
I know you got to toe the line. Boy, so I'm working with
And
you.
I'm only going to say that because I don't want to say that we need less staff, the director of the directors, because we need those hands in the field.
Right.
But
But you
not
need the
in
ones
the-
with the right culture and the right mindset.
That comes with training, that comes with awareness. But we have to put the right people resourcefully in those places planted to be able to educate everybody. Because mental health is growing, but people are not embracing it because people culturally shunned it for a
You know
long
where a
time.
good place would be to start doing your hiring as opposed to those directors of directors? Come to little meetings like this and find out who's donating their time for free. I'd be willing to give my tax money to people that are sitting in this room because you're already doing it for free, right? You're not doing it for a salary, not doing it for a title. This is where you need to come to get your directors or your CIS individual. That's not what's happening.
So I have a question, just kind of hearing all this. I mean, if we had a magic wand and tomorrow we could make policy and funding and culture like all just line up. What would be the first like two things that you really feel like your community, families, and all of that would need in terms of mental health and trauma to like start that process of
Well,
change?
besides funding, you mean?
Yeah, besides funding.
Okay.
Funding, but then what would the funding go to, I guess?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I say that we do need more professionals that can assess and not just assess, but be able to, when those kids are maybe put into a facility that kind of helps them get on track mentally, come back into the system and still be able to carry out whatever they need to continue their normalcy in society. Because we are not addressing that as a continuum, they're falling through the cracks.
It's a checkbox, and once you check it off or you check something off, they don't go back to it. It's really supposed to be a cycle, a loop. Once you assess, you reevaluate, you adjust. Some situations happen, you reassess, you evaluate, you adjust. And so it's
So a better feedback loop would be one
it's
of
a
the things.
a loop, period. I would take any loop right now.
Yeah, Daisy, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, so I recently went to the staff training, the student assistance program, and so it's basically like training for teachers where they can do like kind of community circles and like a way to reach out to their students and give them a safe space to talk about issues that are going on and how strategies to kind of cope with just like like anger or whatever, just like simple things like that, just to give them a space to just talk about that, the skills that they're not taught. Sometimes they're not taught ever, or because they see it at home and they see their parents getting angry and they react by hitting or whatever. And so, just providing that space to learn about that and to talk about that and to talk about what you should do, what you shouldn't do in any kind of situation. And so I brought it to my principal that it would be great if next year we could, how they have art and the block part, they have art and music or PE. We could add that into the block team, and so that every student gets taught, because I can take that training to my classroom and I can have a few students and they get it or whatever. But I really want it for all my students. But not only my students need it, everybody needs it. So we could just have that overall. I told her we have one teacher that teaches it to all the kids as part of that rotation. Then the whole community, the whole school knows like those kind of skills, and it's not just, oh, my teacher taught it or my teacher didn't, or this teacher taught these kids or these teacher taught the whole class. So that's my thinking. I told her that if that could be a possibility for next year. She says that with funding right now, that's an issue. So I would have to bring it up to like the Board of Education. So the board of the board of Alief. So that's an option that I'm going to be trying to do this year, but then it goes into the TEKS. If you're going to ask me like, what TEKS am I teaching, and so if that would be the TEK, because we don't have that, we have this stigma with mental health, and we want to change it, but let's start with the kids. That's where we're seeing it, starting from with the kids. Let's start there. Let's make it, the TEK, make it where it has to be taught, and so then we can hopefully avoid something in the future, and. That's my thinking. If it was an ideal situation.
Yeah. The question is, we have magic wand, and there was funding and administrative support and policy support to make mental health and whatever mental health and trauma type support you need for families and students that you know. What would that look like? I'm not trying to be on the fly, but I just wanted you to know where we were at. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think taking it outside of the school sometimes, the big part of helping people is oftentimes meeting them where they're at. We always want people to come to us, and that's not always possible. You said that they're not showing up here, they're not showing up there. There's a reason for that. We're not showing up here, we're not showing up there either. And so if we truly want to be effective, then we have to meet people where they're at. And sometimes it's inconvenient to us. But if we're truly here to help, then we have to inconvenience ourselves so that somebody else can be better taken care of. So when we talk about communities, we don't think about everybody in their own little houses. We think about everybody coming together. Well, in order to be a true community, we got to go out there and meet those people where they're at. So that would be one of my things to say. Bring it outside of the boardrooms, bring it outside of the classrooms, bring it outside of the parent liaison rooms, and go and meet those people where they're at. Sometimes I might not be able to talk to a parent until 9 o'clock at night, but they deserve just as much service if that's what I'm providing as the individuals that's at home after 5 o'clock when it's 5 to 6 when it's good for me, if that makes sense.
So increased avenues to take it outside of
Right.
the institutions.
Right, because if it comes down to me losing my job and not being able to feed my family so that I can come to an event like this, then I'm going to go to work, and then I'll just tell my son, hey, you just going to have to figure out what to do with your emotions until daddy gets home, and da-da-da-da-da. So I know that sounds insensitive, but that's the reality of people's lives.
And nowadays, coming outside of the community doesn't mean that you necessarily have to leave the building, because we have so much technology.
Right.
You can do stuff online, streamline it, and they can watch it probably at their job.
And they know how to do it better than we do, right? The little kids do. So,
I
yeah.
think what would be good too is to do a needs assessment survey. So I had reached out to the grant writer for the district, and I had said, part of the new screening that a lot of states have is trauma screening. So you're screening children to see based on their ACEs, like adverse childhood incidences, so that we have a good idea of who's our at-risk population, and then doing that kind of stuff. But I realized, okay, so we'll find the data. There are no services that we can match them up with, So one of the things I was thinking is maybe doing a needs survey assessment with our children that come in often to the clinic that maybe you could send home, and just seeing what are some of the services that they would like, or what are some of the things that they find to be important for the child, and then just basing it off of that. It might be, money's tight, and that seems to be the root problem of them not being to be more engaged, or maybe there is a case of domestic violence or some other things, but we don't know, right? Because we don't ask. So maybe doing that kind of intervention, just asking what is it that the parents feel that they need most to be successful for their children.
Yeah, so increased kind of screening and assessment as well, so you can even more accurately identify who needs that support. Yeah. Okay, anything else on this one?
There could be counselors available at the school, for the families in general, after hours, not just within hours, but just they have to go outside, to maybe on a Saturday or whatever. It's just something the parents can go to the school. Usually it's fine, the issue is finding this place or finding that place. I know some of the parents that I talk to, they just they don't know how to get around here, and so if it was something was at the school that would be available to them, that would be helpful.
But I guess I think that I agree with that, and there are people who are in the district, I work for the district as well. So there are counselors that they have brought in to the district to help facilitate that. But I think part of the problem is the communication. I don't think that people who work in the district know, not everybody knows who's here in the district. So they can't get that information out to parents so that the parents can access the services. So I think there needs to be a better job of us within the district talking to each other about the services and things that are out there for our students, because we have KAIs, Community Youth Services is in the schools. They go to schools. We have CIS communities in schools. There are counselors, and there are all these support services actually in the district. But I think it's because people are not communicating about them. And so there are some students who are able to access it. Those students tend to be the ones who access it. We spend a lot of time with a few students when we can spend more time with more students.
It's funny, I hear everybody talking about these different things that are afforded the children and the mental health. But in my mind, I kind of think abstractly, and I think one of the key components that continues to be left out is the educators that's sitting in that classroom with them the majority of the time. We tend to undervalue and underutilize the individual that really solidifies that mindset, because the children are going to talk to who they're most comfortable to. And I say that as an educator. I've had children tell me things and then go to the next door, to my partner and not say those things over there, and we spend the same amount of time, and it's really predicated on trust. I like to say I'm not an educator. I treat them like they're my own kids, and that's what I say mindset. So the broken ones, the right ones, the ones that hate me, I treat them exactly like you would not be able to tell that that's not my child, other than they look Asian, they look Hispanic, they look a little taller than you. And I think that's where, again, the mindset must change, where everybody's role is valuable.
That's
And
what
so,
I was thinking, because as a kid, because I'm still young, I'm just 22.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, we really needed some more of a support system, but we make our cool teachers, we call them cool teachers.
right.
But someone we feel open and we trust them.
Or not even the ones that's on you the most, you end
Even
up
the one,
liking
and then
them.
you learn about,
Yeah.
even if you don't see it right then and there, you may see it the next year. You may see it, you never know when you as a kid may see it. But once you learn that they invested in you, that they care, and that they want to open, you
Right.
can feel free to knock on their door.
You got to have those
You gotta
real
have
conversations
you gotta have those
sometimes. You
people
got
that are
to.
just real with you, and that's like what we need as kids. Like there got to be somebody that knows something. There got to be a teacher that knows something. I think the biggest,
Outside of those teachers, and
outside of those-
if I can share a story to kind of piggyback what you're saying, I taught at a Korean Christian church over the summer, and one of my students was just staring at the clock, and I'm like, they're not paying attention. So instead of continue going on with my lesson or continue saying, hey, you need to pay attention, I stopped teaching and asked, what are you thinking about? Something as simple as, what are you thinking about? And he says, I'm just sitting here trying to figure out when lunch is. Right? And so because I was able to stop, I addressed this question. Lunch is at 11:30. He looked, did the math. Okay, we was back on track. Now we can go forward, and he learned the rest of the lesson. But a lot of teachers don't stop. They pay attention to me. You're not paying attention. You're not going to get this right. I need you to address my concerns. However small or big they may be, I address your concern. Now we back on the curriculum, and there's not enough of that. So I say educators are the front line, and we got to stop worrying about what we got to get done at the end of the day and address those little fires in those situations as they come. And guess what? The teaks will come. And if they don't, they won't never come until he figures out what time lunch is.
Right, well, and there's like you to recognize and empathize. You
Right.
recognize, okay, something's up.
Right.
You addressed it in a non-threatening way, and then you know what it's like. to
In a
be curious about
non-strategic
lunchtime.
way, hey, you need to pay attention.
Exactly.
Right.
And you know what it's like to, oh, I wonder what time lunch is, or dinner, or whatever. Oh, okay, here's the answer.
Right.
Well, that's the tricky thing too, is to be able to do that well, you have to be able to be present, and if you're dealing with your own mental health stuff, if you're totally stressed out, if you're completely overwhelmed, if you're, all that, it is really hard to also
If you have
be
a
fully
child in
present
your
and
classroom
available.
who's bipolar and not
Right.
on his medication,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
you
It's
have,
really hard.
yeah.
And so I
different
wonder,
issues in the classroom.
and this isn't an official question, this is me just thinking a lot. I'm curious what y'all think. What would some sort of mental health support or space or something for the faculty and the educators themselves?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And in a way that's not, because I don't even know how to say this bluntly, in a way that's not going to come back, because people talk and, and then they say they're going to give you this time. It looks good on the checkbox, but then we're going to make you go during your planning time, and we're only going to give you this amount. So,
Yeah, you
right,
suffer other ways.
so we give you the check mark, but the culture and the mindset hasn't really shifted. We're going to put the responsibility on you. So figuring out how to balance that as well, and getting the staff to trust the administrators and et cetera. So this is going to be a fine line.
Well, I mean, just think of it this way, and I've always said this, and I don't know if it's the correct thing to really bring into the system, but we have the MedMD, doctor for all of the staff. He's a doctor, medical doctor outside of the system that most of us go to when we're feeling ill. It's very private setting. You tell them all your personal information, and that's that. But you're bound by your professional oath to keep confidentiality.
That's separate from the district, right?
But they don't work for the district
That's
either.
the key part. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That was the key part that I was getting. That's
They don't
separate
work
from
for
the
the
district,
district.
right?
And there's nothing wrong, I mean, just like a school nurse, I mean, you come to your school nurse if you're feeling ill. But it's something about that outside source or,
Big difference.
yeah,
Yep.
it's just different. And I do feel like we need that added resource mentally for mental health, for the, because those are medical doctors. You can get psychiatric doctors to do the same thing. And that would be a support for us as staff members. But for the children, I think we need a grounded resource that could help keep the cycle of care from the hospital facility to home to school and back to wherever their group therapies or whatever are. I think we're breaking that cycle because we're not communicating with what's going on outside.
Well, and it sounds to me too like obviously the more present and the faculty and the staff are, the better they're able to do things like communicate intentionally and be fully present to what's going on and notice when kids need to be like, hey, I think they might need to be screened for the, just being more present and available with that. And I would imagine that has some trickle-down effect. We all know kids learn by watching what you're doing, not what you're telling them to do.
And I know through the insurance, like through Alief, there's services, 6 free counseling sessions that you can do for the staff. And I think sometimes people forget that we have that free service. So it's something that might be good to spread information about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just remember.
Yeah, some more communication and more just awareness of what's there.
Well, you know how they have that, the incentive, like, if you do the biometrics, the screening, you get like $10 off. And if they do something like that, they say, oh, I see your 6 sessions, let me give you a little discount,
That's what
I think, that they promote it that way.
Yeah.
I want to use my 6 sessions because I want maybe my, $60 off of whatever in the year. So maybe they promote it that way. Because once you start going, you want to keep going.
Right, and it's 6 sessions per topic, so the topic changes.
wow.
It's different.
Oh, I didn't know.
See,
Okay.
well,
I didn't think that.
So just bring up one thing at a time.
Okay, let me read my agenda,
And a little bit of anxiety about this topic.
Yeah.
Are you sad about it? I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
But I do know that they do bring out that information, usually when there's a school incident. That's when they bring it back up.
Right, and that's when you have the least time to do it.
Right, as a
Yeah.
reminder to us that we need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
But maybe it's something that needs to be communicated regularly, and I think that.
Well, I've gotten, I usually get at the beginning of the year, the paper, the copy of it and stuff, and I think twice a year I get it to remind us. So.
What would you say of the resources and all of that currently exist right now, just as is, what have been the most helpful or most effective from what you guys have seen, whether in the school or in the community or wherever?
Resources for what? Like for
Mental health and trauma. Yeah.
Well, I worked 11 years at the Belgian Children's Center before coming to the district in the STAR program. So we provide free counseling to children and their families. It's absolutely free. And we actually, years ago, were in the schools and seeing the kids and seeing their families. The requirements made it difficult, the state requirements made it difficult in order for us to do that because we had to have parental involvement. And if you're coming during the day, it was a difficult thing because parents can't always come during the day. But the therapists were there. They were, master's level clinicians who were under supervision. Many of us were already fully licensed. And we were working in the schools with the kids. So that resource still exists. But because STAR is no longer really in the schools, parents will have to get to that location.
Yeah.
And the closest location is in Fort Bend, and there's no bus transportation.
And see, that's what's happening with a lot of the kids with different facilities. I work for a psych hospital outside of the district, and that's part of the problem. I'm seeing the cycle broken, and the kids are being lost because of it. And I know this is about us, but I just, my passion is for them. But for me, personally, the benefit of being a part of the YMCA, I know that sounds so simple, but you have various things you can do to de-stress and unwind and just kind of detoxify yourself of what's going on that you deal with every day. So
I missed it. Is it about you personally detoxing? Or
Both.
Both.
No, I'm just trying to make sure.
Yeah, what currently exists, what are the best resource, or the most helpful, effective, meaningful resources, whether it's for yourself, for the families in the community that you know, whether it's in the school or not in the school, just what currently exists have been the most helpful or effective that you've seen?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think CIS has been great.
CIS?
Great addition.
I use Memorial Hermann, so now that I'm in the district, I use Memorial Hermann because I don't get the opportunity to really meet with my kids consistently. So they have a therapist at Memorial Hermann Clinic, the school clinic, and so all of the high school students can access the clinic. So I refer them to Dinesha Richardson, who's their therapist, to see.
Can I add a little, again, I think abstractly, I think that doesn't mean I'm right or that I think I'm right, or my mind just goes left. But I think the most important thing for me, as I say, I think the destigmatization of mental health itself, the fact that it's so much, that it's talked about so much now, especially in the African American communities, we don't tend to talk about, we deal with stresses, and that's just the way life is. You've been stressed out your whole life. You came out your mama's womb, your mama was stressed, you're going to be stressed the rest of your life. So having the opportunity to talk about things like this, even seeing African Americans in here is like, that's a win to me. Even if I never go into a facility or we never seek professional help, we are gaining ground in the conversation and coming to the table and understanding and accepting it. So that's a step in the right direction for me. It has nothing to do with a facility or a treatment, but just sitting at the table and just having those conversations.
Have you heard of, has anybody heard of melanin and mental health? Melanin and mental health. It was started here in Houston by two counselors who wanted to kind of change the face of both sides of the couch in the Black and Latino communities. And so they do a lot of different things, whether it's podcasts or being on radio shows or different workshops and things like that. So it may be something to look into because it's kind of changing or trying to change that dynamic and that conversation in African American communities and other communities where it is stigmatized in a different way.
And we've grown up with that trust concern, so we have to break down a lot of barriers. Even me at my age have to break down a lot of barriers just to sit down and have these conversations, let alone to seek treatment or expose some things that I may need corrected or want corrected or have been hurting for most of my life. So
yeah, and something that they also do is they can help connect people with therapists who are either Black or brown themselves or are sensitive to different issues that minorities face.
right.
Yeah, because I know with Hispanic, the guys, in general, it's like, oh, you're a guy, macho feelings, all that stuff.
Right.
So I definitely see that on my end.
Yeah, or in some communities, prayed away.
Yeah. Yes, right away.
And then seeing people that have made it through those. I'll give an example. I went and heard the TA commissioner, A.J. Crabbill, speak. And I knew about him, but I didn't know his situation, that he was in foster homes, abused, and all those type of things. And he'd gone through 11 different schools, and et cetera, et cetera. Those are the stories that once I heard that, this before he started speaking, once we heard that, my guards got let down, and I started seeing him differently. And hey, somebody with those type of issues can make it as well. It's the commissioner of TEA. So I think we have to do more of sharing our story and putting our stories out there, and talking about our broken pieces and talking about our successes as well. And that helps more people than we really realize. And at the end of the day, it's very therapeutic. I know the more that I've started talking about things in my life, I've started recovering or gaining some ground in my life at a later age. Like, man, I should have been telling somebody this a long time ago.
That would have been a lot
So,
easier if
yeah.
We also need a lot of that as the youth, like the teachers, stuff like that. Tell us about the real deal so we can understand and know that you really do relate to us.
Right.
And like probably put us on the right track before we get on the wrong track or continue down the path. Like my little brother, my mom is very concerned because he was doing gang stuff like that. She's like, it's traumatizing her. She freaks out. She wants to keep all eyes on him at all times. And, I had a real conversation with him, and he was just like, I'm not doing it no more. I learned my lesson. Like, I'm glad I stopped when I did. And I was like, Tristan, one day you can tell another young man's story. Whatever you feel like you went through in your experience, you can tell somebody that one day when you grow up. And tell them to stop whatever they doing while they in their tracks. Because we got a little cousin, he's 15 years old, already in jail.
Right.
So my mom is just on edge.
And you do have to share those stories, because the biggest thing to a child that I've seen so far is for them to see me in Walmart. That's Mr. Barone, like, you eat food too? Man, I eat food too. Right, I can't believe it, huh? So you really do have to show them that you are a real life person too, because Mr. Barone eats at buys his groceries from Walmart too. And those things really open their eyes. So now they come to school the next day like, yeah, I saw you too.
Yeah, well, and making the mistakes and then owning our mistakes, and as well as all the feelings that go along with, if it's frustration or whatnot, and help so kids can see, oh, okay, so that's how you walk through that, rather than blowing up at somebody.
Right. And I would tell my students, like, when they got mad, I love the fact that you're upset. I said, because that means that you care. If you didn't care, then I'd be concerned. Now we have to work on how you show your feelings. So you have to let them know it's okay to be upset. I love the fact that you're upset, and I like the fact that you're crying. That means that you really do care. So I don't need to write you up because you care, right? So now we just need to correct that behavior. Keep those feelings, keep that emotion. Let's correct the behavior. So.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So, just kind of, just a few more minutes. I'm curious, this was technically a question for the beginning, but I really want to ask it now. For each of y'all, without taking 20 minutes each, because I can tell all of y'all about this.
I'll shut up.
And I'm sure we could all go on for 20 minutes or a couple hours. What compelled you to be here tonight and to be part of this conversation?
So for me, it's a STEP program. I want to push for it for next year, and I want to it's like getting more information so I can, when I bring it up to to present it as a possibility for next year, I want to have as much data as I can, so that not that difficult of a decision to provide funding for that program.
That's fantastic.
I kind of wish I'd known about it. I found out about it yesterday.
Me too. Yes, me too.
Okay, so I wish I would have known. I live in this community, and so when I tell people I live in Alief, they're like, oh, you live in Alief. And I'm like, what's wrong with Alief? I went to school here. I graduated from Hastings. I came back to the
Hastings.
because I wanted to be, and I live in this community. My house is in the community, so anything that has to do with this community and working with kids, that's what I do during the day. I'm going to be here. So I just wish I'd known, and I think a lot of us, if we'd known, we would have more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I found out probably the same time, like a part yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was the one line on the flyer. I looked at the flyer a couple times and wasn't moved, but the word, we want to hear your voice, I wanted my voice to be heard. And so that ultimately led me to jump in my car and race down here. And I had been putting it off. My wife sent me an email with the flyer and said, hey, did you hear about this? I was like, yeah, I know about that. But just something just kept resonating. I want my voice to be heard. I want my voice to be heard. And I was like, man, I'm going to get there. And so that's it in a nutshell, that we want your voice to We want to hear your voice.
Well, I'm here for hours.
You got to keep it real sometimes.
I'm here for some hours. Yeah, real talk. But,
Hey, that's off your short not to do list.
Right.
That counts.
but I do love the concept of mental health. My favorite subject. I'm gonna change my major now to nursing, but I've always loved psychology.
Yes.
And so also since it's supposed to be helping children, I love getting information and getting new experiences. So this is also a new experience and some hours.
So I'm not from Houston. I'm a transplant. I'm from San Diego. But a big foundation that played in my education and what helped my development was having educators who took me like family, like literally took me for the weekend. And I'm like with my teacher in the ranch with horses because she just saw a child who, who came from a difficult background and just sweeping you in. And I think that's what makes a difference. Just as a clinic aide, as an educator, just being emotionally present can make a lifetime difference. I think this is really relevant to the work that we do.
And because I see the relevance, experience the relevance, and know that there's a gap in what's going on with the kids and their healing, I wanted to be that voice. That's why, I too looked at the flyer and I was just like, what could I really bring to the table? But at the same time, I couldn't pass the chance to say something.
Right.
So,
Get your
yeah.
voice heard. That's
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because so many times it's not about our voice. Like when you go to the board meetings, it's about their voice. It's about their
Our
vision.
agenda, yeah.
It's about it's not about the people, even though they're supposed to represent us and the people is named in the mission and the vision.
Right.
It's oftentimes
That's
not
why
about
sometimes
us.
I don't really care for voting per se, because I'm like, well, is my voice really going to count here? Or is it going to be someone else? But look, I've registered, okay? I registered, well, I'm going to see if my voice counts.
And then that goes to changing the culture and the mindset. See, your culture has been diversified or changed into thinking that your voice doesn't matter, that your vote doesn't matter. And that's exactly what the individuals that stand in the way want you to continue believing. That's it.
That's why I went ahead and registered, Ms. Donna.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you guys. This is all
everybody,
really good
I'm going to call time. I apologize. I would love to hear some of your big takeaways from your conversation this evening. What really stood out for you? What did you find to be the most important thing that we need to pay attention to going forward? Anything new that you learned that you thought was really cool that you'd like to share with other people? So tell us some big stuff from your group. Would y'all like to, the laughing group, would y'all like to?
I think the biggest thing that I took away from it is we had the ability to maybe disagree or not be on the same page, but still be under the same umbrella and have the same passion and drive. And I think that's a lot of times what we miss. It's okay to disagree, but as long as you're under that same umbrella, as long as we're after the same thing, we don't have to agree on everything, and our expertise does not have to be in alignment with it, right? You need the janitors, you need the CEOs, you need the people that cut the yard, you need the people that do the plumbing. All that's necessary in order for this one building to operate and function properly. So that's the biggest thing that I took away.
And your conversation, I had the opportunity to listen in on this conversation a little bit, and this was a beautiful example of civil discourse, you know, where there was some, disagreement on how things are being done or could be done, but there was a lot of respect and a lot of kind words going back and forth, and they both could see that they both cared deeply about the same issue. They just had different ways of going about how they might resolve it. So thank you both for demonstrating that. We don't see much of that in our world.
Very true.
Thank you for doing that for all of us. Now over here, what's something big that you guys discussed that you want to share out that this group may not have had the opportunity to talk about or learn from?
I've attended other meetings in other communities on hardening and impact on children, I think like I haven't heard the educators, the people who are actually working with the students on these issues, and so it's very enlightening and like, I'm very grateful for the educators here that are doing this work because it's tough on them, and like there's some communities that don't have it, and I'm just very impressed.
Let's hear it for the educators.
You got the black and white.
Y'all are
All
showing
right,
up.
back
Yeah,
to
the
this
black and
group.
white.
Anything else from this group that you'd like to share out that you think is important?
We learned of a lot of resources that are actually available, like for example, for people who work for Alief, sometimes educators themselves or people who work for the district can benefit from the services that we have available, like the free count sessions that you can do, one per topic, and then
Make a list.
and their current resources that are available. So we're able to share some of the resources that are out there.
That's awesome. Thank you. Speaking of resources, I put at each table that mental health resources guide, and then also our training information from our Center for School Behavioral Health. If you feel that there's more information that your school or your organization needs training in, we're happy to help. And the flyer for the community conversations, and then I'll get back to the advocacy. One more thing to look at it before we close up. Anything else? Yeah. We gotta do that. Thank you all. Thank you all. I think we're gonna have
Takes a lot of different resources, GIS, student teachers, community work, it's gotta be a collaborative effort to get a result, and it never stops. It never stops. You gotta keep adding resources and resources.
And that's one of the reasons why we asked you to put the dots on, so that at each group you had people representing different constituencies
Different points of view.
of the community. And it does take everybody. And that leads right into our final plea for this evening, the sheets in front of you that I see Daisy is filling out. If you want your voice to continue to be heard, because we're taking from our facilitators today their notes, and we'll be putting that in a document that will help us be able to develop our platform when we go to our legislators to advocate for what you say that your children and you yourselves need when it comes to mental health in our community. And then we also want, again, your voice, if you are willing and able to participate once some of these ideas start to go through the legislative process. We would love to be able to push that out to you, and we appreciate you can just bring those to me or leave them on your table. I thank you all so very much on behalf of Christy. And Christy, any wise words of wisdom? She's one of the wisest people I've ever met. Would you like to share any last words?
Well, you know what, and I just want to thank everyone for coming out and on purpose. These community conversations are meant to be small, and they're meant to be intimate, and they're meant to be open-ended, because in a world of social media, where you Facebook it, you send it, you Instagram it, you tweet it, some of what we don't get sometimes are these conversations, and for a lot of people in each one of the areas, they really realize how much we go through the day, and we don't do a lot of processing ourselves. And so, as you think about some of the connections that you had with strangers, my big push to everyone is to say, in your own personal life, when, with your sisters or your cousins, when you hear someone call a kid bad or they make an assumption, if you could easily feel yourself kind of breaking down those walls and having frank conversations with strangers, then, the onus, and you should feel just as free to have those conversations with the people around you. So the whole idea and the hope is that you take these conversations and use them to shape your own work, but also, too, that you take some of this experience and you have your own critical conversations with the people in your life and those around you. But thank you guys so much for coming. We have lots of sandwiches. I heard a few teachers saying lunch for tomorrow. Please take as many sandwiches as possible. Put them on top of each other. Take some bags of chips. Take some fruit salad. But thank you guys for coming.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I came in.